So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes, their challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this afternoon, I'm delighted to have with us Rebecca Kaye, who's Managing Director at ChTC. So, firstly, Rebecca, thank you for spending some time with us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, ChTC, what you do, how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for inviting me along. So, yeah, I'm Rebecca Kay. As Chris just said, I am the managing director, which sounds terribly grand, but the founder of ChTC, formerly known as Chapel House Training and Consultancy. We rebranded a little over 12 months ago. So we were founded in 2011. We're a Yorkshire-based training and development organisation specialising in executive education, leadership development, coaching and mentoring, and we also do organisational design development consultancy, train consultants and qualify them at levels 5 and 7. And we do quite a lot of executive coaching and management coaching for individuals and organisations. Yeah, so that's very much our space.
Brilliant, brilliant. So, what would you say makes a perfect client for you? What's the one that you go that these are the best people we serve? Would you say?
What a question. I mean, we have such an eclectic mix
Yeah.
of clients. We run open programs, so we have individuals who are coming along who are self-funding. We have individuals who are coming along from sponsored to come through development programs or get coaching from organisations. We also do a lot of in-house work, so where we go in and work with larger client
Yes.
organisations.
Brilliant.
I think the ideal client for me is just anybody who is willing to step in to embrace the learning and prepared to be
Yeah.
challenged. So whether it's an individual, whether it's an organization, as long as they are prepared to potentially shift their thinking, then
Yes.
that's an ideal client.
I think that, yeah, no, that makes perfect sense because I know it sounds obviously to say, but if you're not willing to be open and engaged, there's a little point in doing it in the first place, isn't there? It's sort of,
Yeah,
what's the point of sitting in a room if you're not going to engage with the content? Someone told me
yeah.
years ago, I love the quote, we might go on to quotes later on, but there's a great quote. I think it's the mind is like a parachute. It works best when it's open, which
I like that. I may borrow it with
You,
pride. Who knows?
you are well very much welcome
Yeah,
to. I borrowed it, so you're more than welcome to too. It's one of my
yeah.
favourites. So Rebecca, maybe if we, to start with, we could take a look backwards to start with, and you could tell us a little bit more about your background, how you got into business, and why this particular one for you.
Oh no, there's a question. How long have you got? So, um, I spent 16 years working for the one of the largest police forces in the UK.
Right.
And I know, and a civilian, not a police officer, had all sorts of weird and wonderful jobs. Started off working on the front desk of a police station where people walk in and ask questions.
Yep.
Ended up managing the front desk at three police stations in Bradford, and then got co-opted onto a project at headquarters to look at why we had so many grievances and problems within the
Right.
organisation.
Yep.
Then from that project ended up being co-opted to work and eventually to lead the employee relations function. So
Right.
grievances, and then that moved, once we'd stopped fighting fires, that moved into working much more in the space of looking at where there started to be glitches and performance dip-offs or higher attrition rates or higher rates of sickness, and then being sort of helicoptered in to look at what might be going on within the team and the culture within that particular part of the
Yes.
organisation. So started doing something that I now know is called organizational development consultancy. As an internal consultant, I had not the first clue that that's what I was doing at the time,
Yep.
and did that for a number of years and loved it, absolutely loved it. And then through various ways and means, ended up my last job with the police service was I headed up the equality, diversity and inclusion function.
Great.
So had a really amazing career. But post 2008, all of the public sector pay cuts, and I was ready to do something different.
Yeah.
My then husband was also a senior police officer, and he'd retired and had set up a small, just doing one-to-one coaching business. And I took the voluntary redundancy with a view to coming and joining him and morphing into doing more of the coach training, and it all went from there. So
Yeah.
yeah. So why this business? Oh, I'd done quite a bit of training when I worked in the police service,
Yeah.
and I'd also been trained as a coach as part of the employee relations work that I did. And although that coaching was really a sort of a deficit model because it was what you got when you were heading towards the last chance saloon within the organisation,
Right.
I was absolutely blown away by how it helped to transform people,
Yes.
either to stay or to leave with dignity.
Yeah.
And so it just became something I was really passionate about. And then, did my initial qualifications when I still worked for the police and then did other qualifications later on and then joined my husband to first of all do coaching and as I say, then do coach training and then
Brilliant.
that moved into leadership development and various other things.
Brilliant. That's a fascinating background, and I'm sure it must have been quite an interesting,
Uh,
um, you
It
know,
was it was phenomenal. It was
yeah,
absolutely phenomenal. The last 12 months when I had to exit my team and exit the organization ultimately were tough.
yes,
But the 15 years prior to that, I just had the best time. I just
brilliant.
loved every job I did. Yeah, it was great.
Wonderful, wonderful. And so since founding the business and growing it over these next last 15 years, I think I counted, if my maths is correct.
Yeah.
Which well done, because you may or may not be aware, but the business failure rates are really not great. So getting to 10 years puts you in the top 4% of businesses. So
Wow.
15, I would yeah, it's horrible. It's a big reason why we do what we do. I do what I do, which is unfortunately on average 80% of businesses fail within the first 5 years of being founded. And
Yeah.
of the 20% that survive, another 80% of those fail in the following 5 years.
Wow.
So getting
Okay.
past 10 is 4%. And as I say, I don't know where 15. I should know better, but it's it's enough to know that it's important to help as many people as we can. And looking over those 15 years, what would you say are some of the biggest issues and challenges you've had to overcome so far, Rebecca?
Um, in terms of running the business
Yeah.
or yeah.
Well, anything really, 'cause obviously, it may be personal challenges that you may or may not want to share, but it's just what
Oh, I'm notoriously an oversharer. So I mean, so there's been a few. So the first challenge was making the transition mentally from working in the public sector
Yeah.
to being a founder and
Yes.
working commercially. So the first couple of years, the business was going reasonably well. We were, doing lots of work. We were winning contracts. We were doing the thing that my ex-husband and I had discussed was our dream.
Yeah.
And I was absolutely miserable as sin, could not figure out why. And then we had some training, which was all to do with team dynamics, and had some coaching on the back of that. And it actually made me realize a couple of things. One was that I was working in a space that really wasn't my natural
Yeah.
place of enjoyment because I was doing a lot of the compliance and the rules and all of that, which, was a necessary evil, but not my strengths
Yeah.
base. So I was working against type. But the critical thing was I had lost this sense of social justice that was a huge part of what I'd done working in the police service, working in the public
Yes.
sector, doing the EDI work, working with people from disadvantaged and underrepresented groups. And so had to think about, well, what do we do in this space? So the answer to that was we had the commercial arm, but then we also started to do pro bono work or work with charities and organisations to help them get funding so that we could do more community-based projects. And
Yeah.
that continues. And that's what I need for my personal sanity, that sense of giving something back,
Yeah. Yeah.
that social value piece.
Yes.
As long as I can keep that in reasonable balance, then that's fine. So
Brilliant.
that was the work. That was the worst. That was the first challenge, and then I won't go into huge amounts of detail, but I co-founded the business with somebody who was, at the time my husband, and now no longer is, and we had our business was about 50% revenue stream from the UK, 50% revenue stream from the Middle East.
Oh, right.
Um, we were back and forth to the Middle East all the time for a number of years. And when we divorced and split the business, my ex took the Middle Eastern arm of the business, and I kept the UK arm of the business. But of course, I wasn't particularly thinking straight, going through that. And what it just hadn't occurred to me was that although it was 50-50 revenue, all the costs were in the UK.
Ah, right. Yes.
So there were a couple of tough years there,
Yeah. Yes.
sort of re-establishing and growing the
Yeah.
business and getting us back to, reasonable levels, primarily
Oh, good.
focusing in the UK, and we just about stabilized, and then we got COVID. So but we were really lucky because most of our clients just pivoted. I'm reluctant to use the word, but there it
Absolutely.
is. And we moved to training in this format,
Yes.
and coaching in this format rather than largely face to face, which was what
Yep.
we'd done previously.
Blimey.
Yeah.
That's sorry. Yeah. No. Yeah. It's fascinating, isn't it? As you say, it's I was told years ago by the CEO of my organisation many years ago, and he said, Chris, the job of a business owner is to solve problems. So, and basically, if you don't like problems, it's probably not the best job. And it's true, isn't it? We do tend. I think it was Winston Churchill said something like, success is going from problem to problem, but keep it going, or something like that. Um, and one
When you're
thing
going
I've
through hell, keep growing. That
is
that's that.
definitely that's one of his.
Don't know whose it is though.
That was his as well. That's
Oh,
Churchill.
was
Yeah.
it?
If you find yourself in hell, keep going. Yeah, it was another one about just going from problem to problem or challenge to challenge. But one thing I've found to sort of add to that idea of a business owner's job to solve problems is, I believe that problems are often caused by growth. The idea of growing pains, and so if we don't have problems, we're probably not growing as fast as we possibly could.
Yeah,
So they're actually to try to see them. It's not always easy as good things, if that makes sense. And I
yeah,
know,
definitely.
so I guess it's how we address those things. But there's some significant challenges going on there, and whether it is from those challenges or from other uh, areas of the business. Rebecca, what would you say you've learned about growing a successful business? What are some of the things tips you could give us?
It's all about relationships and about caring about your customers. That is the thing for me. It's about, my business is built on relationships, and that's with clients, that's with people who've come through my training and have experienced, or coaching, and have experienced working with us, and who have become our champions, and who recommend us and continue to want to work with us in lots and lots of different ways.
Brilliant.
And I think the really critical thing is to, and not in a fake way, but to always try to be genuinely interested and curious about anybody that you come across, because you actually don't know whether they're the person who is going to be commissioning something from
Yeah,
you in 3 years' time or 5 years' time, and not to just dismiss people
yes,
because they don't have the right title or name or badge or whatever it happens to be in the moment. Particularly when you go to things like networking events, you see people who almost are eyeing up who it says you are and where you're from, and they're honing in like flies around the honeypot to some, and actually are ignoring others, and you don't know who those people will be,
absolutely.
just to be really authentically curious
Yeah.
and interested in everybody that you come across, is the most important thing that I have learned, I think.
Love that. Absolutely love that. I think it was Mary Kay Cosmetics, American cosmetics brand, and she was asked what made her successful, and she said something like, whenever she walks into a room, she imagines everyone's got "make me feel important" on their forehead.
Mm.
And whoever they were, just the whole room had that written on it, and that was her job, is
Yeah.
just to listen, to be open, be curious. And as you say, I mean, I guess you may have the same experience. I found business connections, whatever it would be, have come from often the most strangest places, but if we hadn't have gone
Yeah.
there, we wouldn't have had them. They wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant.
Absolutely.
And obviously we both operate to some extent in the coaching space. I'm keen to know who the best coaches you've worked with, whether that is business, sport, life in general. Who's had the biggest impact on you?
So I don't I don't consider myself to be a business coach by any stretch of the imagination. So, I have some business experience, I have some organizational experience, but when I'm coaching, I don't step into that space at
Yes,
all.
right.
That's kind of not my within my gift. I, very much work with the person. The person might be working in a complex organization,
Yeah,
but I don't give business advice. That is not what I do as a coach. And I've not personally had a business advisory coach ever. Um, I've had people who are business advisors, and I've had people who have coached me who have businesses, but I've not had a business advisory coach per se. I've worked with lots of people. I've had lots of coaches, both formal and informal. And, there are three people really that I need to give something of a shout out to.
brilliant.
Um, so the first one is somebody called Keith Strawn, Professor Keith Strawn. So Keith, I met on a coach training program. I was the trainer. He was one of the people on the coach training program, and a number of just before the pandemic.
Yep,
And he has become really influential, a collaborator. He is an academic, but he's also a founder, a business owner. He's spun out loads of companies. He is now a non-executive director for my business.
brilliant.
So he's really helped me and support me and coached me at times, and bullied me at times, into doing things that I perhaps didn't feel confident enough to
Yep,
do in a non-coaching and with love kind of a way.
yes,
And and then the other person that needs mention, again, just an absolutely incredible friend, collaborator, coach who almost daily is championing me. That's really hard to say, championing me. And is constantly reminding me that I've got this. And that's Kate, a lady called Kate O'Sullivan. So Kate's incredible. She does some associate work with us. She's coaching her in her own right, both a sport coach. She's on the Welsh rowing board at the minute. She was the deputy chair of British Rowing. So she's
right,
both a sport and a business coach, and she's really
brilliant,
incredible, and is a real champion. And actually, I said three people, and I'm lying. I mean four. And
brilliant.
then there's a lady called Anna McManus Hughes, who I've known for forever. We both did the same job in the police service a million years ago when we were managing belligerent police officers as relatively young women, um, and civilians, and we sort of banded together for moral support, and we've worked with each other over the years. She does do business mentoring, and she does some operational work for me now. And again, a real champion, a real collaborator. And then last but not least is a lady called Jo Clark. So again, another professor. And I don't only know professors, but but
Brilliant.
so Professor Jo Clark. Jo's incredible. She has an organisation called Petros. If you want to talk to a powerhouse, talk to Jo.
You'd
So
be
she is a forensic psychologist by trade and training. Did a load of research around resilience and how do people thrive in organisations,
brilliant.
and then set Petros up, which is a not-for-profit organisation that works with businesses and organisations to help them to allow their people to thrive at work. So she's awesome, and we don't speak as much as we should, but every time that we do, I walk out of the room feeling much more positive, much more positively challenged, lighter, lighter. That's how I feel when I spend time.
Great.
So
That's a
yes,
great.
they're my four.
That's a great description, lighter. I love that. I hope people I work with would think the same, or at least some of the time. Wonderful.
Yeah.
And whether it's for any of those four, because they sound like amazing people, or other sources, we talked about quotes. Any favourite quotes that you catch yourself using on a regular basis, or you really like?
Um, so you mentioned this right at the beginning, and I'm a bit rubbish. I don't often remember things, and remember quotes and things like that. I just the thing that I find myself saying, and it harks back to what I was saying about, people, and building relationships. And I find myself a lot of the time just staying curious for one more question. That to me
Brilliant.
is really, really at the heart of what we do.
Brilliant. I mean, I love that, especially as you say, a coaching point of view, it's that extra catch. We often use the phrase "dig deep,"
Mm,
and
yeah,
and it's like it's so easy to take the first, second, or even third answer at face value. Oh, that's the reason. Whatever
yeah.
the reason is for whatever. Yes, it's this. Okay, and by not digging deep, we're not really helping that person really find the real answer. I mean, it may be, but if we don't dig deep, if we don't stay curious for another question, we may be missing the real issue.
Absolutely, and I think that's it's so true, both in terms of the coaching work that we do, or that I do, and my team do, but also in terms of the consultancy work that we
Yeah.
do. The first thing that gets presented is rarely the thing, and so it's just about holding that curiosity and holding that space and just asking one more question and one more question, and really trying to um, get to the heart of what's really going on here, so that you're not trying to help them
Yes.
fix the wrong thing.
Yes, yeah, no, it's brilliant. The other thing I like to say, and I don't know, it'd be good to get your thoughts on this too. Is for me, coaching is I often use the word dumb, but the simpler the question, the better. If that makes sense, the high level, the open question that drags it, that doesn't make assumptions about the answer, if that makes sense. And it's sort of
Yeah.
it's keeping and what's that about, or what's and those sorts of questions are so open and can be so valuable.
And,
Um,
and, and actually, sometimes just not asking a question at all, just holding the space for the person and allowing them just to sit with the challenge, the emotion, the frustration, the worry, the concern, and just seeing what percolates. And I think sometimes
yes,
what we do as coaches, particularly when we're working with senior leaders and founders, is sometimes what we're doing is just providing a space
yeah,
out of the busy problem solving to just sit with what it is that's going on for them, and just to be able to cognitively process, when actually often they're being hit by so many things, they don't have that
yeah.
piece to be able to do it. So yeah, I think asking the open questions is great, and I think sometimes not asking a question at all.
Mm. Yeah, brilliant. Know when and knowing when not to ask the question,
Yeah,
and yeah, and listen, I guess, is an obvious thing. Alongside that, it's so it's so easy to and it was something I struggled with quite a while, was the idea of, if there is a silence, don't have a need, we shouldn't have a need to fill it. It's processing, as you say. It's actually wrestling with what's going on, and filling it can ruin that situation.
yeah, absolutely.
And on a similar note, any favorite books or podcasts about whether it's business, success, life, even I've had people talk about crime books, but anything that you could recommend to people watching?
Um, so I'm not very good at podcasts because I have the attention span of a gnat sometimes. Um, I'm not good at just listening. If I can listen and watch, I'm fine. But if just
Yeah.
listening, I'm not particularly brilliant at. My other half listens to, and the rest is politics, which is superb.
Yes.
The bits I managed to stay tuned into um, are pretty fantastic. In terms of books, I mean they tend very much to be in that kind of coaching space. And I'm a bit of an anorak as well. I am a bit geeky. So, favorite book around coaching, probably I love the Bruce Peltier book around the psychology of executive coaching. I think that if you're working in that space and you're interested in the underpinning psychology and you've been doing it for a little while, then it's absolutely second to none. Other books that I tend to turn to, probably been studying for the last 4.5 years, so I'm probably a bit too immersed in academic things. If I'm looking at stuff in the organizational design and development space, then the strategizer, the business model canvas, I love that. Find that a really
Yes.
helpful tool in the toolkit.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, other than that, I think the only thing that I'm really reading at the moment is sort of academic papers and things like that probably aren't that much use or interest to people.
Brilliant. And just sticking fun on the learning front, what would you say you've learned about yourself throughout your journey so far,
Um,
Rebecca?
if if you'd have asked me even, yeah, if you'd have asked me 10, 12 years ago, less, 8, 9 years ago, if I could do this on my own, I would have said absolutely no way.
Mm,
Not prayer. So the things that I have learned about myself are, number one, that I am significantly more stubborn. I knew I was stubborn, but oh my goodness, I'm really stubborn and determined and actually resilient. I
yeah,
have been astonished by my own resilience. So
brilliant,
yeah, so that it's the thing that I'm probably the most proud of in terms of myself,
brilliant.
and reflecting on the journey today. Yeah, that's the thing.
Brilliant. It's such important, such an important feature of achieving our goals. I was going to say success, but it's not a success thing. It's just achievement is not giving up, isn't it? The one of my favorite going back to quotes and sayings is there's a Japanese proverb that says, I think it's Japanese. It says fall down seven times, but get up eight. And I just think that's I think I'm on 13 or 14 personally, but it's okay to fall down, but it's
Don't you used to say that about falling off horses, that you couldn't ride a horse until you'd fallen off 7 times?
yeah, brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you say to my kids about skiing is if you're not falling over often enough, you're not trying hard enough,
Yeah.
and it's yeah, brilliant. And within Action Coach, my organisation, we have a definition of what we call a true business, which we believe is a commercial profitable enterprise that works without its owners. And I
Mm.
you could put can in there, but what's your view of that as a definition of a true business, and how does that relate to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a real distinction between a lifestyle business and a
Yes,
business. So in terms of my own business, where I am at the moment is very much in that transitional phase. So I think if I wasn't about, I've got an incredible team.
great.
We've got some really good organizational relationships. So I think we'd be okay, but I'm probably a tiny bit too much the linchpin still for the business. So and of course, we were in one place, and then with everything that happened, the business sort of
Yeah,
took back a retrograde step. So
of
even though we've
course.
been going for 15 years, we
Yeah,
are a number of years behind where perhaps we would have been if
yeah,
myself and my ex hadn't split. So, and we hadn't had to subdivide the business down the
yes,
middle. So, yeah, so my sort of goal over the next 3 to 5 is to really work to make the business be sustainable
brilliant.
without me.
Great. Yeah, it's just one of those things that I think a lot of people I meet think it's almost I'm trying to think of the right word, see the negative to it, but I like to turn it around in terms of or negative in terms of the team. Oh, well, I'm letting my team down. How can I how can I not be right in the middle of the business? But the challenge is as you said, linchpin. We become the bottleneck for growth if it still stays around us. So it's a very virtuous thing to do for the business and our team, not just for ourselves, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. Couldn't agree more. And at the end of the day, I love what I do, but I'm not sure I want to do it forever.
No, absolutely, absolutely, yeah, that exactly right. And just, I think the key thing that phrase gives us is choice, is
Yeah.
the choice to make. Because I do, but I mean, we do meet people depending on what they do that they absolutely love it and they would never want to stop, but still the same thing is if they're right in the middle of it they become the blockage. And as you said, you just never know. It doesn't matter, one day you could love it, next day it could be it's not my thing anymore. um and so, Rebecca, looking forward then, what does the future look like for you guys, and what challenges do you think you might face, if any?
Um, okay, so I mean, obviously we're working in challenging times at the moment.
Yeah.
The lots of global instability. I think I said this to your colleague when we sort of did the pre-piece. I think in the past, when there has been instability, when there's been economic downturn, training and the like has always been the thing that just got
Yes.
end of.
Yeah.
So, we went through some really lean times
Yeah.
when that has happened in the past. I think the one thing that the pandemic has done is it's shifted a lot of organizational thinking. And because there is so much more now, particularly with younger people coming into organizations who perhaps aren't thinking in terms of 10, 15, 20, 25-year careers with the same organizations. I think what we have seen is some maturity in businesses who see that you do need to keep investing in your people if you want to
Yeah.
keep your best people.
Yeah.
So I'm not seeing that sort of coaching and development is being decimated
Yeah.
in the way that it has done when there's been economic downturns. So in the past. So I think that is a position of hope. But what I also think is a particular challenge is because of the frenetic pace of the environments in which people are operating in post-pandemic, particularly.
Yeah.
Um, we're seeing a lot of people coming into training and coaching who perhaps are spinning a lot more plates than they might have been previously, who were perhaps feeling more under the cosh, more beleaguered than they were in the past. So we're finding that the time and the attention and the support that we're needing to give to people has changed
Yes.
because they are perhaps struggling more with complexity and resilience and
Yeah.
all of those things. So that is, that is both a positive and it's also a challenge. The challenge, the big challenge for me at the moment is um, I've got to try to find 70,000 sensible words. I've been doing a doctorate for the last 4 years, so I'm just about to submit my thesis.
Goodness.
Um, so I kind of need to get that over the
Yeah,
line
absolutely.
before I
Goodness.
do anything else. That is definitely my biggest challenge. And that has been incredible.
Yeah.
It's part of it's part of it because it's a doctorate in coaching and mentoring.
Brilliant.
So it's really aligned to the business and
Yeah.
taking business forward, but also it has taken my time and
Yeah.
attention about how I develop and grow the business
Yes.
um, away. It's taken my focus away for some time. So that will be over the line in the next few weeks, and then it'll be a case of number one, having a life, number two, seeing my friends who I've
Yes.
been seeing for the last 4 years, and then number three, starting to think about, well, and how do I leverage this
Yeah.
blood, sweat, and tears that I've just spent the last 4.5 years of my life working on.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. I mean, congratulations and well done. It's hard. I mean, I really mean that because it's a hard enough job running a business, full stop. And that's part of what I do. What I do is because it's like, I know how hard it is. I had my own business before I became a business coach, and it's a hard job keeping the business
Yeah.
going. So adding to that, obviously doing some of the training, but then doing this as well. That's incredible. It takes a lot of
But it's
commitment.
also a testament to my team. So the
Yeah,
interesting thing is it has compelled me to let
brilliant.
go of certain
Brilliant.
parts of my team and to watch my team
Brilliant.
step into that space has been a massive learning curve
Love it.
for them and for me. So yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, great. Love that. No, it's a great point. I was speaking to somebody yesterday who had a retail outlet, and I said to him, he said that he's looking at getting himself more out of the business himself, and at the same time he was just talking about getting a second outlet, and I said it's something that we often suggest people do is if you have to run two outlets at the same time, you can't run both, so you have to get out the first one if that makes sense. So it does
Absolutely.
create so creating necessity. Yeah, sorry, using necessity to create the need is a way that can be valuable. Um,
Yeah.
and I appreciate this. You mentioned about founding the business with your with your ex. But I'm keen to know if you did looking back start the business again, is there anything significant you'd do differently? Do you think?
Um, well, apart from not co-found it with
Yeah, well,
him.
that was I was I
No,
did wonder if you might say that.
in fairness, it. I don't actually regret that because I doubt that I would have stepped into that space if he
Yes.
hadn't been there
Yeah.
anyway. So,
Yeah. Absolutely.
that things do happen for a reason.
Yeah.
I think if I was going to do anything differently, and I don't know whether it's because I'd worked in the private sector before, but I'd spent 16 years in the public sector, and whilst I'd managed a budget and done various things like that, the thing that I wish that I had done would have been to have really invested more at the outset on, well, understanding business finance and accounting and the vagaries of how HMRC returns work and
Yes.
practicalities. Because although I don't do that, I've always had somebody who's sat in that bookkeeping space. I think that it for a long time, it's something that I perhaps lacked enough knowledge to question and interrogate and to be really to be challenging and efficient and
Mm.
understanding that area came later. So understanding how a business works
Yes.
for me would have been a really important investment at the front end and something I would definitely advise anybody who's thinking about stepping into this space to do now.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Part of the if you like, the let's say need for the services that we offer is, most businesses are started by people that are good at what they do. They're not
Yes.
necessarily good at running a business. What they do, they're quite different things. So
Yeah.
we do naturally get a gap in that. But yeah, I agree with you, not just for because of what I do, but learning the skills at an early stage of business, avoid some of the pitfalls and challenges that we face if we don't know those things.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the other challenge is when we found a business, it's get as much businesses as you can as quickly as you can, so that we've got a stable business. So it is a very difficult thing to do both. But
It is, yeah. But I just wish in that sort of transitional period, I'd have just gone on some basic how to run a business
yeah,
course. Um, because we just got, as you say, got so quickly into doing the do, winning the contracts, dealing with clients, and then you're playing catch up, and
yes,
it took me quite a long time to
it
catch up.
it does. And I don't know if you've found this yourself or in other people, but one thing I found, and it's really important to therefore uh, approach this in a very sensitive way, is I think people, once they've been running a business 2 or 3 years, they almost think it's like what's the right word? Um, it's not feeling embarrassed, but he's almost feeling embarrassed that they don't know these things. So,
Yeah.
it's like, I meet so many business people, they say, well, look, every time my accountant comes to see me, I really don't know what they're talking about. I don't know that it's really gross and net profit or, you know,
Yeah.
and, balance sheet and P&L. And it's like, it's like, being asked to be a nuclear physicist and never having done it. It's not, it's a different thing. And so I think it's really important people just go, no, yeah, absolutely don't know that stuff. I'm really good at what I do. I've already got a business that's successful delivering my products and services. But if to get to the next stage, learning, as you said, learning business basics, business growth tactics is quite important, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
And final question, Rebecca, what would be the best advice you could give an 18-year-old you if you could go back in time and do that?
Um, Move out of Leeds. So my biggest regret, and we could talk all day about why it didn't happen, but my biggest regret is that I didn't go and live somewhere else. So two things. I took a gap year, and then
Brilliant.
and it wasn't, yeah, no, not really, because it wasn't a gap year like people do gap years now.
Right.
Didn't go around the world and do exciting things. I went and worked with horses. I'd always
Oh,
ridden.
brilliant.
Yes, I'd ridden from being a
Great.
kid. I went off and worked at the stables where I'd always worked and always ridden. And then you get to this point where you go, I mean, I don't know what I was earning, probably about £8.50 a year, but but you get to the point where you go, oh, I've got money now. Oh, I don't want to go to university and not have money. So I didn't go to university
Right.
for a long time. So I would have done my degree
Right.
at,
Yes.
at 18 and gone to university then. And then, and the other thing I would say to yourself is you should have lived in a big city. You should have lived in London. You should have lived in New York. You should have lived in Berlin. You should have lived in some cool city, even if you hated it and ended up coming back to Leeds. You should have got out of town for a period of time. So, grab those opportunities with both hands, go somewhere, see the world, travel, and do what you can because you get to my age and you're in a situation where you are spending a lot of time, you're running your business, you're busy with your business, then you're also in that situation where there are, I mean, not for me personally, but for a lot of the people, you caught between kids and aging parents and your opportunities to
Yes.
up sticks and go and live the life are significantly diminished for a period of time. So
Yeah.
yeah, if I had my time again, that is what I would do. Definitely. I would have
Brilliant.
gone either in New York or Berlin.
Fantastic. And what, well, always be curious and ask the next question. Why those two cities particularly?
Um, because I love both of them. And they are, of all the places in the world that I have been, and I've been very lucky and I've been to a lot of places, they are the two cities where when I am there, I think, yeah, I could live here.
Brilliant.
Everywhere else, it's great to visit, but I'm happy to come home. There, I was like, how much would an apartment be?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know you like it when you're checking out the real estate, don't
Yeah,
you?
yeah,
Absolutely. I know you weren't asking for an opinion or response, but from what you said about regrets, I would suggest there's an option there in terms of I think education, like youth, is wasted on the young, and if you had
sure.
done all the academic stuff at 18, you may not have got the because clearly I mean it comes across as you talk about what you're doing now, you love it, and it may be you love it now at 18.
Yeah, yeah, I wouldn't have done.
Perfectly honest, when I went to college, it was just it was A, to get something that got me onto the next stage of employment, and B, so I could drink beer and do various silly things. And it wasn't to be academic, that's that's the truth of the matter then. And so I think brilliant. Going back to that point about doing things differently, I mean, a lot of people saying, somebody asked me what I would do different, the question when I was doing these interviews, and I said, and quite a few people say the same, they wouldn't do anything different because they wouldn't be right here, right now, probably because the sliding door effects means one different decision might have turned us into somewhere completely different. So it's a fascinating idea of looking back, isn't it? I think look back to learn, but nothing more than that. Rebecca, it's been really fascinating talking to you, delightful too, and want to thank you for spending some time with us. And for anyone that is watching that would like to get in touch with you or ChTC, what would be the best way of doing that?
Oh, probably just on via the website. So yeah, so just www.chtc.uk.
Brilliant.
Nice and easy to remember. But yeah,
Brilliant. Well, look, it'd
yeah,
be great to swing by another 6 to 12 months and just see what the next stages of development are and how you got on with your getting your 70 word,
70,000, yeah,
70,000 words, sorry,
70,000.
70,000 words. I can't
Yeah,
even
that's
imagine that.
nice. It's a lot. Yeah. Hopefully, if we connect again in the future, there'll be a doctor in front of that Rebecca Kay, and
Oh,
it'll
I
be
do hope so. Absolutely. Forgive me. I didn't know what the right words to say
no,
about
no,
the
no,
kind of
not at all,
but
not at
doctorate, of
all.
course, to be a doctor.
Yes,
I do
no.
hope so. But as I
Me
say,
too.
it's been great today, Ed, yeah, thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you for yours, Chris. It's been really enjoyable.
Absolutely. Thank you.